Yes, সবাইকে শুভেচ্ছা। আমি জানি আমাদের ইন্ডাস্ট্রি খুব ছোট, যারা দেখছেন সবাই আমার পরিচিত হয়তোবা। কাউকে দেখতে পাচ্ছি না, কিন্তু আশা করছি সব ফিল্ম মেকার এনথুজিয়াস্ট কাছের যারা আছেন তারা সবাই আছেন। আমরা অপেক্ষা করছি আরিয়ার জন্য, আর কিছুক্ষণের মধ্যেই আশা করি আরিয়া চলে আসবে। আমি খুব এক্সাইটেড, কারণ আরিয়া আমাদের জন্য মানে আমরা যারা প্রডিউসার বা আমরা যারা প্রডিউসিং করতে চাই, বিশেষ করে আমি অসম্ভব লাইক কিউরিয়াস টু নো হার জার্নি। সো দেখি আর কিছুক্ষণ, হয়তো বা 1-2 মিনিটের মধ্যেই আরিয়া আমাদের সাথে জয়েন করবে, এবং সে এমন কিছু গল্প আমাদের সাথে শেয়ার করবে তার জীবনের এবং তার ফিল্ম মেকিং ক্যারিয়ারের। সেখান থেকে আমরা সামান্য কিছু ইন্সপিরেশনও যদি নিতে পারি, আমার মনে হয় আমাদের আজকের প্রচেষ্টা সার্থক। আমি একটু বলে নিই, আমাদের গুপি বাঘা ফেসবুক এবং ইউটিউব উভয় প্ল্যাটফর্ম থেকেই একযোগে লাইভ হচ্ছে। আর আপনারা যারা শুনছেন, তারা যারা শুনছেন না, আপনাদের মনে হয় যে শোনা উচিত, তাহলে শেয়ার করুন এবং সাজেস্ট করুন টু জয়েন, এবং নিচে কমেন্ট সেকশনে আপনারা কমেন্ট করতে পারেন আপনাদের যে কোনো প্রশ্ন। আমরা সরাসরি আরিয়ার সাথে যোগাযোগ করব এবং আরিয়ার মাধ্যমেই আমরা জেনে নিব আপনাদের প্রশ্নের উত্তর। আমার ধারণা আর কিছুক্ষণ অপেক্ষা করার পরেই আরিয়া চলে আসবে। অদ্ভুত ব্যাপার হচ্ছে, কিছুক্ষণ আগেই কারেন্ট চলে গিয়েছিল, সো আমি একটু প্যানিক ছিলাম, কারণ সহসা কারেন্ট যায় না। ঠিক লাইভ শুরু হওয়ার 5 মিনিট আগে কারেন্ট চলে গেল, তো আমি একটু অন্ধকারে ছিলাম। আই থিঙ্ক, হ্যালো আরিয়া।
Hi, Arifur.
Hi, how are you? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfect. Thank you so much to join us. And yeah, the people are waiting here to talk to with you directly. And at the same time, they are super curious, like me, to know your journey as a person, as a filmmaker, as a producer. And yeah, and like for me, you are an inspiration, because I know you came from south of the Indian part, and alone, young. You are still young, definitely, but you know, when you came first, it was like it was really tough for you to jump on the, not on the pond, like an ocean. Bombay is like an ocean for filmmakers, and yeah, I know that. So yeah, how are you? Tell me, how are you, and then how is the situation there? And then formally, I will ask you some questions.
Sure. Thank you, Arifur. That's a very sweet introduction. Things are good. We're all dealing with the pandemic, taking it one day at a time, going with the flow actually. Because every day there are new guidelines, so we're hoping that it gets better in a couple of days. How are things with you?
Yeah. I think you can sense, because India and Bangladesh, you know, very close, and the people here, and historically we had the same culture, history, and currently we are facing the same problem throughout the world. So yeah, pretty much same. We are stuck on our home, but at the same time, people are going out because they don't care sometimes. It's really tough because we have a huge population, you know that. So it's really tough to control, and we have super emotion. And nobody can stop us.
Yeah. Same here. I think it's the exact same situation here. I think people are fed up of staying indoors, so everyone's just.
Yeah. So cool. Thank you so much for joining us. And yeah, I have a lot to ask you. And at the same time, the audience, they will ask you. And yeah, I know you are not that kind of diplomatic. In terms of sharing yourself, you are open always. So yeah, I hope we'll have some really like honest and organic answer. Anyway, so I can start with the journey. Like I know you started mass communication, and then you change your track to filmmaking and specifically producing. So, like, what was the motivation for you to, transform from mass communication to filmmaking? Yeah.
So honestly, I took up mass comm thinking that I'll go abroad and do like a master's, like at some fancy place. I'll convince my parents to sort of fund that program. But
Mm-hmm.
I eventually didn't end up graduating at all. I only did a semester or so. I think of semester. I think I did two of them, and I didn't.
Okay.
So not that it's the greatest thing, but that's the truth of it. And I've always wanted to be in films, in the sense uh, I think as early as school, from the time we started watching these movies every Saturday. I was in boarding school, so we used to get to watch like two movies every weekend. And I think from then on, like I've had like directors and producers right from school. Like we were all a gang, so it was always a thing that I wanted to get into. It was nothing like I wanted to move after mass comm or anything. It was just like a gateway course.
Mm, okay. So, when did you decided to, move from South to Bombay? Because everyone knows that like it's very tough city and it's very hard to get chance. Yeah.
So it just randomly happened that one of my seniors from college was auditioning for this film called Chakte, and
Mm-hmm.
it just and at that time I just wanted to get away from where I was, and I just didn't want to study. I guess at that point of time, I don't know what I was going through mentally, but I just wanted to get away from the city. And so a friend of mine sort of pushed me to go for it. I'd sent all my classmates for it. And eventually then she called me and she said that, it's just, you just have to come in and read some lines. And I went on a Sunday and it just randomly happened. And of course, like I had a laugh, like reading all of the lines because I didn't know how to speak Hindi at all. And I
Okay.
think I got this random call just before my phonetics exam, I think, or my first or second semester. And it just happened that way that I just traveled to Bombay and met these guys at Yashraj, and then they said that you'll be here for the next year or so. And at that time, I didn't really think that, oh my God, I'm moving to Bombay or anything of that sort. But I just came here for that time period. But I actually moved here much later in 2010 when I started working.
Mhm.
And yeah, that's how it went. So there was no decision as such. It just happened because I never really wanted to come to Bombay. I wanted to go somewhere else and do my master's. And I never
Okay.
even thought about Bombay actually because I didn't understand the language. And it's not like we watched a lot of Hindi films also. We watched a lot of art house films there, but like we didn't really watch a lot of commercial Hindi films. So we didn't really think about Bombay as such. So it just randomly happened that the film got me here, and then I made some friends here, and I thought might as well start working over here.
But you always wanted to, settle yourself in the South Indian movie industry, right?
Not
But
really, not really.
okay.
I honestly thought that I'm just going to get out of this country like every good Indian, sort of
Mm-hmm.
abroad and figure out and like get a job and like try and work in an industry outside. Also because I didn't really want to work in the South Indian film industry because it was mostly a lot of commercial work at the time and I didn't really understand it that much. And also I just didn't know Hindi, so I didn't see the point of me coming here to Bombay and working in the Hindi film industry. So I never really thought about Bombay as such. I mean, yeah, and I didn't
There
think of.
is a Yeah, carry on, carry on.
No, that's it actually.
So, Dhaka and Bombay, it's for me philosophically the same city, and we all come to Dhaka like carry the same dream to establish ourselves in different places, and also I'm talking from my own interest, like filmmaking industry. So it's really tough, and I also worked at Bombay like 2-3 months, and I saw like how tough it is to settle. You are lucky, like you got Yash Raj and Shah Rukh, like the very first moment. But definitely there would be some struggle, and the moment when you felt like, oh my God, what should I do? Like maybe I should go back. So can you remember something from that struggling period of your life?
Actually, so many times. I think I've packed my bags at least like 2, 3 times, like at least 3 times, and I've gone back home for like 3, 4 months at a stretch because I've just gotten fed up of the place. I think initially it was also because I started producing independently a little early on. I think. I mean, now there are a lot of people doing things at like 20 and 25, but I was around 26 at the time when I decided that it's time for me to start
Wow.
independently, and it was the worst decision I've ever made because I didn't really know, how to figure clients and how does
Hmm.
accounting work and all of that stuff. I was just like, oh my god, I'm really ambitious and I'm just gonna go and do it. I just thought everything would fall in place. So, yeah, a very foolish decision, but I learned a lot of things during that process. I was on my own for about 4 or 5 years until I was called for Sacred Games. Um, and it was quite a tough time actually because yeah, it was a very very tough time actually because it also because I was on my own. I didn't really have a partner, and
Hmm.
this was the pre Me Too time, so it really didn't. Things were very different pre Me Too time, and especially when you're young and you're trying to sort of get clients from different agencies, different brands, and things like that. It really didn't help that I was on my own. I would say it was not a good time for a woman to start a business on her own. I mean, I'm sure there are a lot of other lucky people who've done the same thing, but that didn't happen with me. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So Sacred Games, I was about to ask you about Sacred Games, but I think it's pretty like soon to ask you. Maybe I should ask later. But before that, I want to know the concept of producing, because it's very industry wise. Producing is such a concept that actually determined by the industry. For me, like some industry believes producing is actually financing. There is no other things to do, just give money and take a chair and like sit back and relax. It's
Yeah.
not actually that. So what do you mean about like producing, and what is your workflow? I mean, I want to know your workflow, and also like if you can relate to the industry also. Yeah.
Yeah, so actually, this is very annoying, when people relate producing to just financing because they immediately think that we have a lot of money and we're just willing to throw it around on ideas, and it's like such a weird idea. And I understand that it's actually trickled down in that sense, like through pop culture and everything, where we see like there's this producer person just sitting on a set with a cowboy hat and just being like, I'm the producer with like a lot of money, and I don't know it. Like, of course things have changed over the years, but I think now there's a very definitive structure to how we work also um, because of all of the external influences, I would say. So it's not Mr. Moneybags and his assistants anymore, or it's not just like a bunch of men doing the same doing the same thing or like trying to run a production. um, I think producing is basically about putting a crew together, putting the best crew together for that particular job. And this is something I learned a lot quicker because I was in advertising before I jumped into long format. And I think it's helped me immensely because I've understood the importance of working with different people for different projects and why you choose certain crew, a certain DOP, a certain production designer for a particular job, and not use the same people over and over again. I think that is a skill in itself, to actually find people and put everything together. And that is what producing means to me. It's not just like, looking at budgets and figuring out how much catering is going to cost or how much a camera is going to cost. It's actually about putting the right crew for the job together. um, and I think now more and more, like, people are understanding that it's not like best to do it, um, because there are, I mean, everyone works differently. All production houses here work differently. All directors work differently. So it really depends on how much trust your director or that production house gives you. That you have some sort of leeway to choose the crew and everything of that sort. So I feel that is the biggest skill a producer should have. Actually putting a crew together more than anything else. Financing and everything is a separate thing. Actually, it's actually the idea and the crew together, because um, that always comes first, I would think.
Yeah, I'm totally agree with you because it's really hard for the writer director to think from that perspective, like what kind of people could be the appropriate combination that
Yeah.
can run the show. Yeah. So yeah, you are absolutely right, and I'm also trying to do the same thing here because we are suffering most. We don't have any concept of producing,
Mm-hmm.
so I think our journey is merged here. Anyway,
Yeah.
so from my experience, I faced like the relationship between the producer and director is the most crucial thing.
Hmm.
So what do you think about that? Like, uh, what is the ideal relationship between a producer and the director? Is it a complicated love relationship, or you can say it's a marriage between like two unknown person? Uh, I don't know. Like, what is your opinion?
So yeah, so I've had all sorts of relationships now, I think, like in, yeah, whether also thanks to advertising, and because I've worked with a bunch of um, yeah, directors because of advertising, a lot of people actually, just because of advertising. Otherwise, in long format, I've only worked with BMN, Vikram and Anurag. But I think it differs from director to director, and I think an
Mhm.
ideal relationship would actually be a 50-50. It's a partnership, and I think that somewhere, um, everything has to be 50-50. There has to be mutual respect, because a lot of the time, what people are expecting are nannies, or like like event managers, like, and
Mm,
then like this creative genius who's like throwing this tantrum, or like is asking for stuff, and then it just puts you in a very, why have I gotten into this profession in the first place? I
yeah.
haven't dealt in the recent past, but I have had to deal with it a lot in advertising, and it's been like I've had one arranged marriage that went really well because it was extremely professional. I've had, and in the recent past, it's all been love-hate relationships. Actually, I love you,
Yeah.
and that's actually the best kind of a relationship, because you know that no matter what, like, you might end the day with like a screaming match, but even if you don't talk before you go to bed, it's one of those things where wherever you are and wherever I am, like, we've got each other's backs. That's basically, I think, an ideal director producer relationship. Yeah.
So I think the most of the audiences they are waiting for the big one. They want to know the journey of producing Sacred Games. Yeah. So like, what was the beginning and the middle and the end of that project?
So it just happened randomly. I had worked with Vikram Motwani. I'm just going to call him VM because I'm so not used to saying Vikram or Anurag. So I had worked with him on a bunch of ads earlier, And when at the end of 2016, I just messaged him saying, I'm so sick of advertising, I don't want to do this anymore. And it was just a rant. And sometime in early 2017, he just called me saying that, listen, just read this book and then get back to me. So I ordered the book, and then I was trying to
Wow.
get through it. and I heard that, there was a series being made, of course, like there's a Netflix series being made and everything. And I had heard about it the previous year, but I just didn't know why he would want me to get involved, because I'm from advertising and this is like completely different. But anyway, so he called me in about 10 days and said, okay, it doesn't matter if you haven't finished reading the book, now just come back to Bombay. And because I'd gone back home, it was one of those times where I was just like, I'm done with this life, and things like that. So I came back to Bombay, and he sort of just pushed me into the deep end. Actually, I started off as creative producer on the job for season one, and eventually it came down to everything: handling budgets, handling things that I had never done before. Usually it was just like, come in, get your stuff done in 2 weeks, and then move on. And here you're with a crew, and actually two different units, because both of them were shooting simultaneously, and we had split it into Sartaj and Gaitunde. So he went and shot all of Sartaj, and Anurag went and shot all of Gaitunde, and there were different timelines anyway. So there were two units shooting simultaneously. Initially, it was a little crazy, because we tried various combinations as to how this would work out.
Yeah.
Like, what if we split it like episodically, like say a director comes in and shoots episode one, and then or should we go episode one and then somebody else comes in and shoots three, and we tried all sorts of combinations. But then we realized that it's better to just go with location blocks, finish everything location wise. Like say finish all of Gopalmat first, or finish all of
Okay.
Dhara, finish location wise, because it's really it's enormously expensive to actually dress up and dress down a location each time you want to go back to that location if you're shooting episode wise. So that's why we went with the location blocks. But yeah, so that was on season one. On season two, we had Neeraj Gewana as well, shooting the Sartaj section. And yeah, so I think that was quite a crazy experience, because initially I tried to do on both sets at the same time, and like and they were shooting simultaneously, and I was like, I'm not going to sleep, and I'm going to try and do this, and but it was really exhausting, because um, I realized that I don't have the kind of stamina that it requires, where you're shooting like 100 days at a stretch versus like a 3-4 day shoot earlier. And yeah, I don't think there was any. The biggest difference was that basically that you just spend a lot of time with the crew, and
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of time with the crew. And otherwise, yeah, your post production was another like sort of a nightmare, actually, because we were all figuring it out for the first time, and Netflix has a different workflow from what we're used to. And it was quite a nightmare initially, but I think we all learned a lot on season one, and then we tried to apply it to season two, where we had to do fresh budgets and things like that. So it was he just pushed me into the deep end in that sense. Like we just had to go and figure it out, whether it was the actors, whether it was obviously he gave us all briefs and everything, and it was just um, finalizing and negotiating with the actors, locations. I mean, it was too huge at that point of time, but eventually it all worked out well. We had a great crew also, like everyone,
Yeah.
all the HODs, all of the ADs, okay, cast production team. So I think all the right energies just came together. So yeah, do you have anything to
Which
say?
one? Which one is your favorite? Like the season one or season two?
Any day season one. I'm not going with the story or anything, because it's not like I'm attached to the story. Again, it was very Hindi specific for me. So a lot of times we had two versions of the script, where I would read the English version, because I really took a long time to read the Hindi versions. But season one, not because of the story or because it worked better or like public opinion or anything. It's only because we like we didn't know what we were doing at all.
Yeah.
We were just trying out something new, and no one had this. No one came in with the thought that, oh my god, like, this is such a popular show, or this is what we're going to create, and this is like, there was no real. No one came in with any preconceived notions, basically. So it was very raw, and we just didn't realize that it was going to become this popular. So it's, I don't know. It's the first cut, so it's a good feeling. Yeah.
So there is a relevant question. I had no intention to take questions, but it's related to Sacred Games, so I would love to read out for you. One second. Just a second. So his name is Muhammad Jahid Hassan Sufi. He's a filmmaker. He's asking, like, what is the biggest lesson that you have learned that helped you the most in producing big productions like Sacred Games, other than working hard, honesty, passion, determination, courage? So his focus point is like, maybe some other people have that kind of that kind of thing, like working hard, honesty, passion, determination. But what is the other lesson you learn from Sacred Games? Yeah.
I think the biggest lesson that I've learned is uh, actually to to be resilient. I think um,
Mm,
that so much can happen in one day, and things can just
yeah,
go
yeah,
and to feel to feel the same sort of positivity the next day, and to just keep going on and finishing the job. I mean, that requires resilience, I feel like, and it requires you to be mentally strong. And yeah, I think resilience is what it taught me. Not that I
it's
was all the time, but yeah.
it's very interesting because the person I know, he's working in a resilient project for BBC, so it's match. By the way, I have very like kind of strong questions for you coming up next, which is like, being a woman and captain of a ship as a producer, did you face any difficulty, or if I say more directly, like any racism? And yeah, what do you think about the practice?
So I'll just knock off the racism bit first. If by that you mean
Mm,
that because I'm South Indian and I've come in here and anything of that sort, because that
mm,
is also a thing. Um, that didn't really bother me at all. Also because people making those jokes are real dimwits, to be honest. Like it doesn't really affect you. And with regard to,
mm,
yeah, it's actually really it's actually overwhelming to think about it, because there's just been like quite a few years of this actually. And see, there's a pre Me Too time and there's a post Me Too
yeah.
time, and I feel that things were really difficult pre Me Too. And because people just expect women to be like graceful and poised and like soft spoken, and like,
Mm,
so all that they want women to be all the time. So, and if you're not any of that, and if you say things as it is, or if you're in any case standing on like hundreds of years of like just conditioning, actually, that like you're
mm,
doing a man's job or things of that sort. So I've really felt it for sure. And of course there's also
yeah.
a lot of passive aggressive behavior if
Mm,
you make an unpopular decision. And people just like to say that we want to see women in positions of power. And I don't know if people really mean that, because
mm,
when, like, it's somewhat like it like it's, I don't know, it hurts people's egos. I'm not saying everyone is like that, but I think
yeah.
it's, yeah, it's, there's a lot of conditioning, so it's been pretty difficult. So I think, yeah, that's where this whole resilience bit comes in, and I keep sort of reminding myself that um no matter what anyone tells you, or even if they attack you personally or anything, you just keep going on, and nothing really matters because your work will speak for itself. And yeah, that's about it. Like, there's nothing you can do about it. I mean, you have to be thick-skinned, I guess. Like, there's nothing else that you can do. Yeah.
So any tips you can give to the female filmmaker here from your insight?
So as female filmmakers, again, like, um, I just feel, this whole thing of we don't want to be that token filmmaker that is part of
Mm,
a project because, you know, now everyone wants to give female filmmakers a chance. Or
mm,
like, I just don't like the concept of female filmmakers only because I've never like, I know that I'm speaking from a position of privilege, but like, I just never felt the I just never felt the what do you call it? Like, I never felt like I was not an equal. So,
mm, mm,
and also to sort of seek out places where um, there is no gender discrimination. I got really lucky because I worked at a place called Equinox, Ram's company, Ram Madhani's company, and that was the first place that I felt like there is no gender discrimination here. They've hired me because I'm a professional, not because I'm a woman
mm,
or a man, or it didn't really
mm.
matter what I wore and what I looked like. None of that mattered. Like, it gave me so much like peace of mind. So I think to actively seek out those kind of places, ask around, um, and write to people that you can train with. um, you'll have to do some research and digging to figure out these kind of places, and then work there first and then branch out is what I would say. Yeah.
Yeah. So do you think like the women they are sometime like eliminate themselves from the how can I say like uh, the meta idea of professionals, not like any gender. Like sometimes they call themselves like we are women's filmmaker and we have a certain rights or certain kind of problems that we are facing, so we have to be unite to stop that or to prevent that, especially the masculine practice and yeah, also the patriarchy of the society provoke themselves to do that. So I'm asking from that perspective, not from me, like as Arif. Yeah, like what do you think?
So, I understand the need for people to get together and, support each other and sort of promote each other, saying that, hey, we're female filmmakers, give us a chance. But somewhere I'm
Mm,
also very against it because I really feel
mm,
that people get jobs based on merit. And, now, like, things are opening up. We have everyone from a Zoya Akhtar to a Shazia Iqbal to,
yeah,
and it's basically about like what you make. If it's good, you will stand out. I mean, and it's
right.
the internet, and it's not like you're not going to get a chance because you're a female filmmaker. There are many ways
Mm,
to make yourself heard, and like, of course, there is going to be that thing of course, like, there are certain sections of the industry that may not want to work with you because they have issues working with women because they feel like women are more work, and all of that stuff. But that's only a fraction. You have to seek out people who would want to work with you, and
mm-hmm,
and there are many examples of it now. People who really try to get there. It's not like, oh my god, like it's difficult or anything. And of course,
yeah.
like, um, yeah, maybe you have to try a little extra harder, but in certain sections, I don't know how it is in Bangladesh.
Mm-hmm,
But we have the internet and everything's possible. Like, um,
yeah. So you believe like we can change this practice, like the same practice is going on like historically, so we can change it, right?
Yeah, and I think it's changeable based on merit,
Mm.
it's not, and that's why, like, I feel like, like, I recently worked with somebody on a job where he wanted a team that is diverse,
Mm.
I didn't get it because I was just like, what is this whole
Mm.
inclusion and diversity thing just for the sake of being, you know,
Right.
inclusive? Like, I didn't get it. Um,
Mm.
yeah, so I think, like, people should get jobs on the basis of merit, and there is no hiding behind this fact that, oh my god, like, male
Mm.
filmmakers are preferred. That time has gone, and
Yeah.
it's up to us now if we want to make a change. Like, we can't just sit and cry about it.
No.
Yeah, I
Yes.
mean, if we cry about it, my god, like, I'm really, yeah, yeah, I don't know what to say sometimes, but you know what I mean.
Makes sense. So I think I have so many questions to ask you, but I think this is a time to invite some guests also to ask you directly. So I'm requesting my team to give some window for the audience also to ask any like interesting questions to Arya. So yeah, let's wait for a couple of seconds to join someone. If not, then they can work behind. I can ask you some other questions also. So, by the way, do you have any idea like how many people like watched Sacred Games here, or like how they love Sacred Games,
Not
or
really.
did you not really?
Not really, matlab, in the sense, yeah, you had told me about it, and I was like, wow, I didn't know about this, but yeah, like, but that's really cool.
Yeah, actually, one of my intention was to organize this session to invite people who are related to Sacred Games and some other interesting series and films to open a window to work together. Because we are just audience now. We have talents. So we have like new filmmakers on the pipeline. So why not like you know crossing the talents with each other and sharing the knowledge and ideas. So I
Yeah,
think from now on we can think about that, like how we can collaborate each other, because
absolutely.
we are sharing the bazaar, we are sharing the market, but why
Yeah,
not the work together?
yeah.
Yeah.
Why not the talent? I think, yeah, I think collaboration and co-production. This is the future actually. So
Yeah. Yeah.
now we're literally working in a world without borders, to be honest, because we have the
Yeah.
internet,
Yeah.
and in this time also we've realized that you can hire anyone from anywhere, and we can always figure work out, um, without having to physically be present. You can always figure things out.
Yeah. So, what do you think about the workflow between a series and a film? Like, I think it's totally different.
um
I
it's
think yeah, we can talk about this question a little bit later because we have Mushfiq. He's a senior creative director,
Correct.
also working in the advertising scene here, and he's from Crosswalk. It's a communication platform. So yeah,
Yeah.
Mushfiq bhai, please, you can ask directly.
Hi, hi.
Hello, nice to meet you here.
Nice to meet you too.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah,
Hello.
she can hear you.
Okay. Okay. So it's really great to meet you here because I think I should introduce myself to you like a friend from your early life. You know, you relived advertising and got into film production and stuff.
Yeah.
So uh, I was actually listening to your stories. It's very mind blowing. It's very inspiring, and I just have a basic asking from myself that why did you leave advertising?
Um, so, you know, I left advertising because, it just became a very, like, it was just too difficult actually. Not because of anything else. It just became like by the end of it, I was just so fed up of being this independent producer on my own, because this was all pre Me Too time, and it just became really tiring to go and speak to a lot of agencies. I mean, you know how it works. Like there are, like, the kind of stories that came out of India during the Me Too movement as well. Um, it's
Okay,
not. I don't know how do I say this without. Um, yeah, I mean, I'll have to ditch the diplomacy, but like it was just really difficult being a woman in the industry, is what I would
okay,
say.
okay. That's understandable. That's
Yeah,
understandable.
yeah, and it just it just became really difficult because I was going through like, even when I started out, I think the stuff that we complain about now um, was always overlooked then. Like, it was a very uncomfortable experience. Like, say if I went to, I'm not saying that it happened all of the time, but like how male producers can take out their clients for dinner and sort of meet them on coffee dates and things of that sort. It just became a lot more difficult for me because, see, for example, I would meet somebody from an agency somewhere, and then we would meet for dinner, and then it just got into like a very weird space because they would want to discuss a film, and then eventually it just became about, like, how do I say it? It became about a man and a woman, and not like it was not a professional setup really. So I
That's
think,
sad.
yeah, like
That's sad.
that basically was the issue, and it just
So
became much.
okay, so you work in the creative department in the advertising or in the account management side?
No, so I wasn't in an agency. I was running my own production company at that time, and so I would go to agencies to pitch the directors that I work with. So I
Okay,
would go and
okay,
meet directors. I would go and meet these people, you know, and
okay,
whoever.
okay,
Yeah,
okay, okay, okay.
not that I
That's
did
kind of
anything. I loved it. I still miss it. I wish I could go and do a job for 2 weeks and just meet new people. And it's but yeah, it wasn't very exciting.
okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's cool.
Anything else you wanna ask, Muslim Bhai, or
Since I've got this chance of meeting an international producer here, so I would like to ask her about something that I was really looking for in this situation. You know, um, this is kind of an impossible situation for us to produce good stuff, right? So apart from the safety measures that should be taken, I hope. Apart from that, how can you and also without working with a small team, what else can be considered to have a good production in this time, this context?
So I think without you mean without losing quality, right? Is that what you
Yes,
mean?
yes, yes, yes.
Yeah. So um, I think we've always wanted to reduce the number of people in a crew. Like I think
mm,
I've been trying to do that from the time I had the um, designation to do that. But we've never been able to reduce the number of people. I think if we can figure out, like, say, for example, even outside, like in other countries, like we don't have 10 lightmen, we don't have, we don't have that many number of people doing the same job. And I think if we can effectively cut down the size of the crew, I think we can still produce stuff during this time. A lot of people
Okay.
here as well are producing a lot of stuff like within the confines of their home. If you see, even a lot of the promotional material that came out during Secret Games was all shot on a phone, and it looks
Mm.
fantastic, So I think it's actually about reimagining a lot of the ideas that we have right now and sort of fitting it into um, a workflow that is safe for everyone, basically. I don't think that, like even here, like the guidelines that we get every day, they're changing by the day actually. We've got
Okay.
like at least about 4 or 5 standards of meeting people so far, but I think things will get back to normal. But I think our um, shifts and everything will get extended. So maybe it will increase the number of days of our work, but I don't think it will reduce the quality of our work, is what I feel.
Okay. 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 Thank you. Thanks for enlightening us. Thanks.
Thank you, Mushfiq Bhai, for joining us. Yeah, we are
Thank you
so
very much.
happy to have you.
Thank you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you guys.
So, Arya, do you need anything like tea or water? Because you are talking, talking, and talking, and I know it's super tough for you to
No,
talk like continuously.
yeah, no,
Yeah,
I'm good. I'm good. I'm just
you're
like,
good.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, okay. So I want to read out one question from one of my friend. He wrote like, please describe how you would ensure that production is on schedule. How do they take you as producer? Yeah,
So,
it's really tough. Yeah.
so we rely heavily on the first AD to make sure that we, make the day. And firstly, before we get into the days, of course, like we rely heavily on the first AD to help us with that, to stick to the schedule. Of course, there are many unprecedented like situations, like say, for example, it rains in like a non-monsoon period, or if there is
Hmm.
some sort of like an accident of sorts, or if, say, for example, Sartaj Saif injured
Yeah.
his foot during Sacred Games, and when we were shooting the bunker scenes. So we had to cancel that day shoot. Now we have this entire set standing. We have all of the actors on set. Now what do we do? So there are
Hmm.
things that happen where you have to plan. Like you'll have to have, if you can, then try and put in a contingency in your budget, so that like you're
Hmm.
on the safer side. But otherwise you'll just have to push to make the day. And I think like it takes about, like, say if you're doing a 50-day shoot, from whatever I've understood, you'll need the first week to understand what pace you're going at with the crew. And if you're not making the day, then maybe you need to revise the rest of the days accordingly, or maybe you need to push people harder on set and figure it out. But because of the number of permutations, combinations we try during prep itself with the schedule, we are usually good to go by the time shoot starts. It's only when
Hmm.
it's only sometimes that we don't make the day. And if there are any spillovers, you have to sort of try and fit it in elsewhere in any other location. And sometimes you may not be able to come back to a certain location because it's too expensive. So you'll have
Yeah.
to then and there try and figure out solutions with the director. How best can we
Hmm.
do this if we don't have the money to do it? Because usually we don't have the money to do something like that. And in many cases, like I've been lucky, like say with VM or with AK, they've been very good at adjusting these things, elsewhere, or
Hmm.
they reimagine it elsewhere and things like that. With I feel with newer directors, you have to be a little more careful because they need a little more care,
Hmm.
and like, and of course, and if they've written the script themselves, I would imagine that they would want to do it a particular way, and maybe they don't make the day. So you'll have to, like, each job is different. You'll have to figure it out. Ideally, if you get a great first AD, then you're sorted. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is the last one from the audience. I'm inviting someone also to ask you. He's very young producer from Bangladesh, and we don't have that much producer here. So yeah, this is a great chance for him to like learn and get some inspiration that I think already people got. So yeah, maybe he will ask. My team, can you connect someone from, yeah, so Sajid is here.
Hello,
Hello.
hello. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, I can.
Can you?
Yes, I
Yeah.
can.
Okay, okay, okay. Thank you very much for giving us time. You know that our country is not that much cinematic, or our industry is not that much established like India. So, as a producer, we need to struggle a lot. You're
Yeah.
talking about your experience about producing, and Arif bhai knows very well that our producing job start from financing stage actually. So that's the biggest challenge for us. And let me put you in a hypothetical situation.
Yeah.
Think about the market where
Mm,
there is only 60 plus cinema theater. So if you
mm,
invest in cinema, then there is no guarantee that you can bring back the invested money. This is the number one scenario. And number two scenario is that in case of online releasing, there is
mm.
not that much popular online platform, or there is not that much online audience segment that will cooperate you by watching the films you are making. So here market segment is too much narrow. This is our biggest challenge. On the other hand, I and Arif bhai and many people who are working in Bangladesh, we believe that we have many talented filmmakers, film directors and writers, and we have amazing stories. So what is your advice that how can we, in this market segment or in this market scenario, how can we approach about financing when we are going for financing a cinema or a TV series? What will be your advice or suggestion in this scenario?
So ideally, I really have not worked in the theatrical release format where you put money together and then like go and release a film in a theater. And
Mhm.
for I feel somewhere I feel, and I would include all of us here in it, that I don't know if we make the kind of films with like these big stars that release in a theater and like do a lot of money in the opening weekend and stuff like that. Because here in Bombay, those are the Salman Khan and the big star films that like I don't really work on, like, and I have no inclination towards also. But I feel ki um, pitching wise, I mean, if you have an idea for a TV series or if you have an idea for a feature film, if you put it together, if you make a great pitch and then pitch to any platform, I think even if like there is no platform that has a headquarter in your country, I think you can always like approach anyone outside as well, whether wherever their headquarters are, or
Mm.
you can also try co-productions, I feel. Like a lot of the times I feel ki when we've discussed projects with people, from other countries, it's always about exchanging the pitches and seeing what works for us. And I know that, like, say, for example, Hindi is a big market, I guess, for people all over the world. And plus, I don't know if, like, language is really a problem anymore because if you have a great idea and if you have a great story, people will take it on. Only because all of the platforms now play in about 190 countries. They do about like 26 to 50, subtitle options. They have like as many dubbing options as well. So it's really about an idea. Like, say, for example, I've met and discussed secret games with a lot of people who cannot understand Hindi at all, like from other
Mm.
countries. And that is when I understood that, even if I make a film in Malayalam here, or even if I
Yeah.
make a film in Tamil here, it and which they're not going to understand anyway. And if you have subtitles and if it can be dubbed in those languages, that's all that is required. And you can always sell it online. And I feel ki, um, even if you have difficulty pitching it, it's also about finding a good agent. You know, the like I in the past, like I've put together a lot of like agents from LA. Not that like many of them have written back to me. I've like randomly gotten in touch with them. And it's just about like cold calling a lot of people actually. Like say for example, even at Andolan Films, which is Vikram Motwani's company, we get a lot of pitches from like all parts, and there are many and everyone reads it. It's not, this is the day and age where you know everyone knows that a good idea can be adapted in many languages. So even if you make it in your own language over there, it can be made in any language over here as well. And uh, that like I don't think there's any barrier as such anymore. Like there really isn't. Like, and if anyone is sitting at home feeling like, oh my god, like there's not like there's nowhere to release it, that's mostly like an excuse because we haven't explored, we haven't like started reading and doing our research yet, I feel. And even if you can't find an agent, like even Aki's company, Anurag's company, they also have producers Dhruv and Akshay. They also get a lot of pitches, that they go through. So a lot of the companies here as well. Um, like again, I'm not promoting Bombay as like everyone should like send pitches over here. Of course they should, because I think like it's time to do co-productions and things like that. But I feel no one can ignore a good idea, And in this day and age, and the way that, and thankfully because of the interactions that I've been having with people, um, if you send it to the right people, and by that I mean like if you registered your idea and you make sure that you have all your paperwork in place and you've sent it across to people, no one will ignore a good idea. You will hear back from someone, you know.
Yeah.
Also because there is this possibility of like doing it in so many languages. So yeah, I feel like now like it's a lot closer. There's many things we can do. I don't know if that answers your question, but I just
Yeah,
feel
I
Yes,
think
I got you.
you answered like the mostly, in a holistic way, but it's useful. I can relate. I can relate. Like, yes, people care about good ideas, good script, and it's all about courage. Like, I have to write, even randomly. Then people definitely will get back.
yeah,
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 yeah. I
yeah,
faced that. Yeah, it's
yeah.
it's. Anyway, thank you, Sajid. Thank you so much to ask such a
I had
such.
another question
Oh, you have another question,
to, to,
but
to, to both of you. To both of you,
we are running out of time. But can you ask quickly so
you
that?
can give the answer shortly. So, in our country, as the producing profession is not yet that much established, and some of us are trying to do this. So, this question is for you both. That as a young producer, what can, as I have to go 1,000 miles. So, what is your advice to the young producers of Bangladesh?
You first, Arif.
Yeah, I think for me, like I always tell people, especially the young filmmakers, like follow your hearts, don't follow, the trend. Always follow your heart, and it will take you to the r- right path and right people. And it's very important to have right people in your life, not only in filmmaking but also in your own life. So it's always matter like what kind of people you are choosing to work. So I think the young filmmakers should do that strictly. Avoid toxic people. Avoid, uh, quote unquote commercial, and definitely you understand what I want to mean, because you are a filmmaker. You want to tell the stories. So story matters. Always try to tell the honest story, whatever it is. Like it's a commercial. I mean, television commercial. It's fine. If it's a documentary, it's fine. If it's a feature film, it's fine. Yeah. But I think this is not my session. This is Arya's session. Go ahead, Arya.
No, I think that just to add to that, I feel ki for younger producers, I think one of the things to learn to sort of start reading up right now is basically about entertainment law. and IP rights. I think that is going to basically steer the future of you know no border filmmaking, basically. Because then you can make stuff in any language, you can sell it anywhere. And I think entertainment law is actually very fascinating. If you know that stuff, then and if you start reading more contracts, and if you start studying that a little more, then you'll understand that, oh my God, these are the kind of possibilities that you can uh,
Yeah.
that can happen as well. Like I feel, yeah. And there are
I
many
think
courses
it,
now, so yeah.
I think it's $1 million suggestion for you, and also for me, because it's era of entertainment law and entertainment clause. It's very important to know and understand, because all the quote unquote politics and negotiation, hidden under the contract. It's very tough.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And each contract is different, and it's best to if you start with learning that, then you're pretty much sorted.
That's
Thank
the
you. Thank
future.
you.
Thank you, Sajid. Thank you so much. And yeah, I hope you will join next uh, all our sessions coming ahead. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
Yeah,
you very much.
yeah. Arya, so I think we almost finished our time, but if you allow me, I can ask you a couple of questions, because this is a golden chance for us to know. But if
Sure.
you feel like you are tired, then definitely I will wrap it up. Yeah.
Sure. If there's, I'd happily answer if you have anything else.
Yeah, so we are talking about the workflow between the feature film and the longer series, and also as you did one documentary film and that won the national award, the biggest and the most precious award in India. So what is the difference between these all three medium in terms of
Uh,
producing?
so I have not done a feature film, but I worked as a director's assistant on a feature film just recently. So I'll just speak on that basis. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think the big difference is basically um, the development period and post production, I would say. And the
Mm-hmm.
development, by development period, I won't mean that usually, like, say, a platform or even a production company greenlights a project or greenlights a development phase. It would mean X number of months of writing, and which would mean putting together a writer's room. Like on a series, you put together a writer's room depending on the number of episodes there are, or maybe it could be a singular writer, or it could be a lead writer with two, three junior writers. However, that structure goes. Um,
Mm-hmm.
then at the end of that period, you sort of begin soft prep, and depending on the kind of storylines that you have, then you get X number of directors on board and figure out, like, say, a Sataj or Gayatri, or an episodic schedule. And then post production, which is the scary part for series, is basically because there's, you start editing well in advance from the first day of shoot itself, so you know where you're getting at. And there's always a schedule in place for post production. You also sort of try and do your VFX in advance, because it takes a lot more time on a show than on a feature
Mm-hmm.
film, where you sort of edit the key scenes in advance, so that your VFX can start early, because that usually takes the most amount of time. And the difference between a series and a feature film, the biggest difference is basically the development period, I would say. Sometimes it's not necessary that, unless it's a very research oriented film, like say it's a war film, or it's like some spy thriller,
Mm-hmm.
something like that, you don't really need a development phase. It's usually one or two writers going and writing a feature film and coming back and saying that, hey, this is my script and this is my Bible and this is my pitch and everything. And then you immediately sort of budget that, and then you send it out to financiers or platforms and see where it's going. But on a documentary, and then of course, everything is simpler on a feature also, because I mean, in terms of scheduling, it works pretty much the same way as a series. There is one director, and there's a shorter
Mm-hmm.
period of time usually for post production, but otherwise, if it's like a Marvel film and like a war film and everything bigger. And the documentary, which is actually one of the most underrated types of filmmaking, I feel, and one of the most exciting as well, because you just never know where it's going to go. Is that you start out, I feel like, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, Ariful, you start out with a sort of like an idea as to, okay, this is where you're going, these are the number of people you're interviewing, or these are the locations that you're going to, and seeing these are the events that you're covering. And then
Yeah.
I think it's a very organic process. So maybe when you go there, you discover that, oh my god, there's another thread to this story, or there's another thread over here,
Yeah.
and then the story just keeps going forward. So there's no schedule in place as such. So unless like it's like greenlit by a platform where you have to sort of, or if it's like an archival footage based show, where you can have a definitive guideline because you're just putting views in place and like some visual design in place. If it's live interviews and if it's live coverage, then you never know how long it's going to take. Also, sometimes it's better if it takes a long amount of time because it makes it that much more interesting, and the viewpoints that you started out with will not be the same. You won't have the same viewpoints when you end with it, when you end your shooting process. And I think it takes a lot um, more time to edit a documentary than it on any other um, format. I think this is pretty much like the major difference, I would say.
Yeah, I have a relevant question. Like, did you have any influence to the writer in terms of writing the series episode?
Uh,
I mean, from the producing perspective.
did I have any influence on the writer?
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah.
as a producer?
Yes.
No, not at all. In fact, like when you say influence, I would say that we are there to enable or to sort of provide the writer and the writer's room with whatever they require so that they can work to the best of their ability. It could mean anything from you know um, booking a retreat for them to
Yeah.
getting to fixing interviews to getting them research material. It could mean anything. It's basically like providing these kind of services for them. Of course, like everyone takes feedback. If you want to give feedback, and everyone's always ready to hear feedback now because everyone's in a much more collaborative space, I feel, these days. But that's how we work with the writers room usually. It's not like
And
we're telling them how to write or anything of that sort. Only thing is schedule. We go after them with the schedule and say that, hey, please send it to us at this time. But that's about it.
so, how many days, for the retreat session?
So it
Because
depends.
depends on the budget, I know,
Yeah.
but for sacred games.
Yeah. So for Secret, I think it was about, if I'm not mistaken, it was about 10 days for season two because we had a bit of a budget. Um,
Where
yeah, this was in Goa.
it's not in Juhu Beach,
No,
definitely.
this was in Goa, and they
Oh
were
my
having,
God.
yeah,
Oh
yeah.
wow. Wow. Mm.
Yeah, to answer your question, that the only other place where they would lean in and tell us is also like, say, for example, they start making big budget decisions. Like, say, for
Mm.
example, want to include countries into the, um,
Okay. Yeah.
then,
Like Kenya.
yeah, like Kenya. There were like some 3, 4 options. And honestly, initially we were all like, yeah, please add, because,
Is
everyone
that?
wants to. But then,
Yeah.
then we have to see based on the budget, like how much we can fit in where, or if we can cheat certain locations and things like that. So we did cheat a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes sense. Yeah. I got your point. So yeah, we are almost like close to our end. So my another question is, like, you worked with Sajid, Ram, they're classic people. I mean, they're really senior and experienced. And on the other hand, you work with Vikramaditya Motwane, Anurag Kashyap. They are my favorite, and the young spirit. So can you tell the comparative learning from these two generations, like from your experience
So,
and their
you know,
genre? It's totally different. Like Sajid, Nadia Duwala, it's more like comedy and humor, and
yeah.
Vikram and Anurag, they're more in political satire and yeah, action crime, so many new stuff.
Yeah. So, I actually just worked as a personal assistant to Nadia, sir.
Vikram. Oh, okay.
And
Sajid. Hmm.
yeah, and I wouldn't say that like I didn't work on any particular film at that point of time. So
Hmm.
uh, I was literally like redoing The Office and like getting his pants stitched, stuff like that. Like so, I don't know. At the only time that I spent working on a film was there was this film called Anjana Anjani, and I was just like brand new at the time, and I realized like, okay, this is how marketing works. And I think Nadia Dwala Grandson and Sons, basically the company, they do the best kind of marketing for any commercial Hindi films.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah. So you've got the best
Yeah.
outdoors. You've got like
Mm.
outdoor media is always the best. Like all of your events, your coverage is
Hmm.
so when your film is releasing, it is everywhere. Like a lot of money is spent
Wow.
and very intelligently. So one of my jobs is to actually like put together a deck on like all of the stuff that's happening around the film. So I got to learn a lot on that front. Besides that, I think the company worked in a very commercial space. So I was also translating some films which were in other languages
Hmm.
to other, and also sort of doing like these box office reports on other films and stuff. So it was pretty. It was fun. It was fun for some time, but then I also wanted to get into other main production. Now, say for example, that's when I made the shift to Equinox. So more than Ram, of course, who was Ram Madhwani, I worked a lot with this producer Manoj Shroff, who I first met, and I told him that I want to be a creative producer, and he was like, "There's no such thing like that, but we'll figure it out." But he actually, for anyone, I don't know, even if you guys like anyone makes it to Bombay, if
Mm.
anyone wants to do an internship or wants to go work, Equinox is a fantastic place to work at. I just
Yeah.
got lucky to go there because this was the first time that I felt that there was no like I'm not working because I'm a man or a woman. Like there was no gender discrimination. I
Yeah.
just am there because I know how to work, and I never sort of like had to deal with any sort of politics. Like it was just like
Hmm.
work. It was pure joy. Of course, like some days, like I felt like, oh my god, there's too much work. But I think it was possibly the happiest time of my professional life, like working for somebody else. That Equinox was that place for me. So, and they also have like a lot of like from him and his company. What I've learned is basically like the basics. How to structure things, how to
Mm.
a production, and what work culture actually means, so it
Yeah.
was a beautiful experience. Then of course I had my days of doing some my own independent producing, and then I was quite lost for a while because I started out
Hmm.
to and with until I met VM, who I produced some ads for. I think the minute I
Okay.
started working with him, I realized that I actually realized that what I'm lacking is discipline, and
Hmm.
he has a lot of it. He is probably the most hardworking director that I know of. He
Mm.
is so technically sound, and he is so like he is he is working all the time, and
Wow.
and he is so dedicated. Like I've never seen any human being who works this much or is this dedicated to his craft, like no one else. And like I've never seen that kind of honesty in anyone else, because all he wants to do is make something amazing. And that's something that I've learned from him, as to how to structure my day, how to be disciplined about like what I'm doing, how many hours to put into what, these kind of things are the things that I've learned from him. He's like a film school by himself. And with AK, he is, he like, I don't know how, he is the most spontaneous director that I've worked with, and also the most fun. He is like, I don't know, like
I
we,
met him, so I can relate.
yeah, and he is just like, I don't know how to describe him, because we've had our ups and downs on Secret Games, but like I think he's one of those people who you meet and then you don't have, there's like, in spite of the fact that like, he may be this genius director and everything, he will, you will already find like that thing of like, like, when somebody automatically treats you like an equal. I don't know how to, I don't know how to put it across, because everyone else is very like, I'm putting myself on a pedestal, or like I'm a certain way and everything. He's the most, yeah, like he's just like that. Like, I don't know how to say it. So I think, and he's also one of the most encouraging people. So a lot of times, like I
Yeah.
also remember like on Sacred Games, because I had not seen much of his work. Like Black Friday was, I think, the first film that I saw when I came to Bombay, but I'd not followed a lot of like lines or anything, because I was just like, my God, this looks very violent. So I just avoided those films. So when I got to set with him, like he would basically take the script and he would write the dialogues then and there himself. I'd never seen it like that. I'd never seen something like that happening. And initially, like he literally told me, just stay away from me, because I don't do this kind of prep and everything for my films. Like I cannot function like this. And initially I would always wonder, in the first like couple of days on season one, that like, why is this man so famous, and like why, like what is the deal about him? And eventually, like I remember, like I just remember one meeting that we had before Secret Games season one, before we went to shoot, and I was freaking out, because I had come from like this whole Equinox sort of a background, and then here we are, and of course like BM is so dedicated and he's so like disciplined about everything. And we had one meeting, that's when I realized, and of course we were all called to his house, and we had this meeting where that's when I realized that he is an encyclopedia by himself. He just doesn't show it. So he'll give you that 1 hour or something where he just rambles about like, okay, figure this out, figure that out, and he knows everything under the sun. And then he leaves it to the people that he's hired, or the people that he's chosen for the project, to figure it out, because that's why you've been hired. That's basically what you're supposed to do. So that way, I've learned like many little things from him, and yeah, and I've also learned that it's okay to mess up sometimes, and I think that yeah, and that I like, yeah, and it's okay to be a child sometimes. It doesn't matter. I think that's what I've learned from him. Yeah,
Yeah. I wish, one day maybe I can bring him, to talk. Yeah,
yeah,
it'll be amazing.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
before going for the last two questions, I want to read one more comments. It's from Riyasat Salekin. He's asking to you like how tricky is to navigate slash make calls regarding choosing projects and also going forward upon working on bold projects of the political satire spectrum like Anurag's works in Rocket, including Sacred Games, with its undertones of casting light upon populism, fascism. Wow,
Mhm.
wow.
So,
And yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
no, please, please. You had something to say?
No, I have one more. Like Asif asking, like, if anyone from Bangladesh want you to, his or her producer, is it possible or not? That's the second one.
So from what I've learned, from what VM made me do on season one is basically put together a legal clearance sheet, which is basically,
Mm,
even if you the rights to a book, if you've got the rights to any material, or even if it's a fresh script, put together a legal clearance document where you know that you might need permissions from specific people or NOCs which you need before you release this material. Now, in many instances, you won't get those NOCs, and your director will still use that footage. And then it's just like, on a prayer, you just like send it, because you never know what's going to happen and who's going to get offended. And our country is such a country that everyone gets offended by everything. It's not like, yeah, it's not like in America where like people can make a documentary about Trump and get away with it and say whatever they want. Here, well, other things happen.
No way.
Yeah, so I don't, it's a very dicey situation in that sense. Like, very few people have the courage to make that kind of like a call also, whether to include it or not. So I would say that it really boils down to actually making those reports and saying what you can get, and then finally taking a call on along with the production partners, because it's not just your call. There's also like a platform and their standards and ethics committees and like whatnot, like their own legal counsel that will come in and say, "Okay, this is too much." But yeah, so it's a call that everyone takes together. And sometimes it's annoying because they want you to take out stuff which is like too much apparently for the audience and stuff like that. But you've got to do it because you still have to live. So, yeah, that is one.
And the next one.
So the next one is that while
See, they're not counting me. They don't want me as a producer. They want you as a producer. Okay, go ahead.
So I would suggest that then, they get in touch with Arif and me together so that we can still.
I'm the agent.
No, I mean, in the sense, like, more than anything else, like, I feel ki co-productions and collaborations are possible now. And it's really a question of actually, like, registering all your material in advance and then sending it across to us. Like, even if it's a pitch, like, even if it's a synopsis, a one-pager, however you see it. And if you send it across, and if it's a nice idea that, like, is viable for everyone, then it can definitely happen.
Yep.
And maybe not to. Sorry?
My fingers crossed.
Yeah, absolutely. Because maybe it's not possible in a particular language. Maybe it's possible in that language and other languages. So there are all these options as well, and I guess like we both know that, at the end of the day, an idea is the waste.
I can see that. I can see the future.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. So my last two, maybe three, sorry, questions. One is, by the way, I want to tell the audience, if you want to watch Arya's documentary, it's on the Mubi, MUBI, and the documentary called Ahmedabad Famous, right?
Yeah.
If you want, and if you want to watch Arya acting, you can watch Chak De India. And if you want to watch her production, like he worked as a producer, that's Sacred Games. It's on Netflix. And my question, like, can you give like 3 to 5 Arya tips to the young filmmakers and producers here, and some also listening from India, I know. So yeah, in general.
So again,
Maybe one.
Yeah, see, I think the first one is basically because our industry is so fragile, and we as people are fragile, which is why we've gotten into this industry. Um, I think it's about just save money so that you can have the time to sit at home and write, and maybe take a break at some point, because you can't keep working and like doing a job and working on something creative. So I would say saving money, and also definitely keeping your friends outside of the industry, like who are not part of the industry and who are not part of your like working circle, because they're the ones who will give you a reality check when you most need it. And and like, because it can just get really overwhelming, you know, after a point, like, you know, as you grow.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that I would say these two. Yeah.
And can you suggest a book, music or song, and lastly a film? These three, like a book can change your life for me, a film also can change your life, and good music can change your like philosophy. So definitely, you can suggest these three.
So for again, I've forgotten like that. But
Maybe for the book, an entertainment law book or something.
yeah, so yeah, you know, I would say just sign up for a course on like these online courses and like just do an entertainment law course more than anything
Mm,
else, because
mm,
you know that just puts like makes things a lot simpler. Like if you know the deals that like are being cracked, or like try and look up contracts on online and stuff like that, it just gives you a lot more like insight into how things are happening
yeah.
and what are the numbers like, and you know, stuff like that. And even if we don't get to those numbers, at least we know okay, these are the things that you need.
Mm,
And yeah, but about a book, like I really don't know about a film because there are so many. And I like actually, you know, one of my favorite films is it's a popular choice, but it's Interstellar. And
oh, okay.
like I'm a
Mm,
huge like Nolan fan, and you know, I love that film. I can see it over and over again. And and yeah, and a book would be this. It's a book called Night by Eli Wiesel.
mm-hmm.
It's basically about it's non-fiction, like survivors of the Auschwitz.
Mm,
And
okay.
like I was I remember like it having a profound impact on me when I read it. It was many
Mm,
years ago. But yeah, I
it's
would
called
say
Night. It's called
yeah,
Night, right?
Night by Eli Wiesel. And for music, I would say ki, you know, because there's so much, for lack of a better description, kachra that's out there right now. I
Mm,
just feel ki, you know, sometimes, you know, going back to just like classical, like one instrument pieces, like say whether it is a piano or whether it is like a cello or whether it is however you want to see it, like however you want to hear it. I feel those it can have like a very meditative effect on you. And like I think you need like it also helps you cleanse your palate from time to time, you know,
yeah,
like you know
yeah.
these palate cleansers that uh, you know, because we're so used to hearing like so many different types of things right now that like if you go back to the old stuff it always helps. So it could be anything, it could be all of the classics also. So yeah.
So yeah, we actually overtime, like it's 1.5 hour. So
Oh
I
god.
know you will I know you will leave this industry soon, and you will take the camera because wildlife photography is your passion. And yeah, I know that. So apart from that, what's going on? What is next? What is next big thing coming? Yeah.
So um I worked as a DA, as a director's assistant on this film called AK versus AK, which is
Mm-hmm.
directed by Vikram Motwane. It's basically Anurag Kashyap versus Anil Kapoor, and they are both playing themselves.
Oh
So
wow, that's
yeah,
big.
yeah. So that is a film that is coming out now, like sometime by the end of this year, and that will be on
Wow.
Netflix, assuming that you all will get it. And then I'm also working on this project called Maximum City. It's a book by Suketu Mehta, which Anurag is directing. And then there are
Wow.
some, yeah, there are two, three other projects that are there, but like I think we're still in the development stage where like we have some time to go. So these two things, and then there's this animated series that I'm really excited about, which I'm trying to co-write with a friend of mine.
Oh
So
wow.
yeah, so
Let me
that's where.
take a breath. So many big things are coming.
No, so I'm just trying to make use of this pandemic time to just like yeah
Yeah,
work.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think we had a wonderful time and such a useful conversation for me, for the audience, and I think and I believe this could be the window, to do something together, to cross our path. And
Absolutely.
yeah, I believe it will happen soon.
Yeah.
And and for the young filmmakers who are listening, please prepare, work hard, do research, and definitely Arya is there if you want to pitch anything. I will be the middleman. I will take my cut,
So we can do
but
this together. Yeah, do this together. Yeah.
and definitely we can collaborate, and it will work. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for coming and join
Thanks
us.
for having me.
And by the way, did you watch Choked?
Yes, I did
Just
watch show. Did you watch it?
oh wow. I watch it, and for the audience, the big news is like tomorrow, the writer Nihit will come to our session from 8:30 p.m. Bangladesh time and from 8 p.m. Indian time. And yeah, I hope we'll have another tremendous and useful session. And
Yeah.
I'm not gonna ask you like how you like it or not, the film, because it's a surprise for the audience, and this is a homework for them. Watch it
Yeah.
tonight on Netflix, and let's talk tomorrow. Thank you, Arya. Thank you so much. Thank
Thank you
you.
so much, Arif. It was lovely chatting with you. Thank you.
Yeah,
Bye.
yeah. Thank you. Bye. Take care.